happy day. We are talking about ways to write your story. Rewriting your mental health story, rewriting your story as it relates to neurodiversity, rewriting your story as it relates to autism. So I'm Dr. Virginia, I'm a board certified psychiatrist. And if you're over here on TikTok, we are certainly not going to be over here very long. And if you miss some things, head on over to YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, and you can pick some things up over there. So what are three things? Just three, not a lot here, not a lot today. I'm not going to bust your brains. It's the middle of the week, it's hump day. So we're just trying to make it through the end of the week. So what are three things that you can do and use to rewrite your story? How can you rewrite your story? So first of all, let's think about why you would want to rewrite your story. There's so much great science and data on the fact that even if a person has had a traumatic experience, even if they've had a period of time where they felt socially rejected or they've had other difficulties, one great thing is that your brain can undergo something called neuroplasticity. We continue to learn new things about the brain literally every year, sometimes multiple things in a year. But neuroplasticity is basically the fact that the brain can be moldable. Connections that used to be there can get pruned, just like when you're born with so many neural connections. And it's literally use it or lose it. The ones that you're not using, you do start losing. But you can also switch those brain cells, those nerve cells around, those connections around, make new connections or reconnect things that weren't there before. And that's a combination of neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. So I have a plastic bottle I've been drinking water out of. Notice how it's very moldable, because that's what plastic can be. So that's why we say neuroplasticity, right? Because I got a neuron that only wants to go this way. Well, I can maybe shift some things and make a new neuronal pathway. So now it goes this way. Okay, good old plastic that will be recycled. Now, what does this mean for rewriting my story? There are several therapies, and I'm giving you an example of neurotherapy with something called narrative therapy. So if a person has experienced a trauma, you can undergo a therapy, and in the therapy, you literally rewrite your story. And when you are rewriting your story, your brain starts accepting that new version. We can do that with people with trauma. There's trauma-focused CBT. There's cognitive processing therapy, where a person at the beginning can give their account. And it's not so much that you're lying to yourself, because I've had patients say, well, am I lying to myself? It's not so much as that. What it is you're basically reframing things, okay? So if I had a picture behind me, which I don't, I could take that picture and just look at it the way that it is, and that would be fine. But then I could put it in a different frame, and the way you look at it is going to completely change, right? If I put it in just a regular old wood frame that looks like materials that you make a cabinet out of, that's one thing. But if I put it in a gilded iron wrought frame, maybe that's got some gold gilding on it, it changes the frame. Those are two totally different frames. So depending on how you choose to reframe an incident that's happened to you in the past with something like narrative therapy, that's an example of neuroplasticity, because over time, you'll start looking at it differently. For example, we talked about regret versus gratitude yesterday. So if I had been thinking, if only I had not gone down this one street, because if I hadn't gone down this street, I wouldn't have gotten into that accident. And now I've been in this accident, and it's changed this kind of the trajectory of my life. A way to reframe that, again, you're not lying, you're just reframing it, is even though I went down that street and got in an accident, I learned later that had I kept going the trajectory that I was on, there was a massive pileup, an even worse accident. I got into a little fender bender, right? And it changed my life, because the person I did the fender bending with, we hit it off and became fast friends or dated or whatever. And that changed my life. See, I didn't tell you how it changed your life. That's one thing. But had I kept going straight, I later learned that there was a fatal crash ahead of me, and I could have been involved in that. And that would have completely changed the trajectory of my life for bad. Okay, that's an example of reframing. And you can do that in narrative therapy. That's just one of the things you can do in narrative therapy. So, how can I rewrite my story? Number one, you go through that process where you say, I want to reframe my story. I want to think about things differently. I want to do it differently. Number two, you actually rewrite it. But I encourage you to rewrite it from a cognitive behavioral therapy standpoint. CBT is basically where you think about the thought, the feeling, and the behavior associated with whatever the situation is, or whatever strong emotion that you're feeling. And then you come up with alternative concepts or alternative thoughts related to that. And then number three, when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you've thought about why you want to reframe it. You actually start reframing it through something like a cognitive behavioral therapy or a narrative therapy. And then number three, you practice. You go back and you rehearse it and you continue to use it. When you are doing that, that is a way to literally cause your brain to be reshaped. Now, let's go Bible for a moment. Romans 12, 1 and 2 says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So the Bible is great for telling you what to do, but not always how to do it. I love CBT because that's a version of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, that you can use to transform your mind. Okay. And I do believe that Alan Beck was on to something, whether he was a Christian or not, I don't know. God rest his soul. But he said, you have to think about what you're thinking about. Think about how it's connected to feelings and think about how it's connected to behavior, and then reframe your thinking from that. Come up with an alternate thought. And that is what changes your mind. That's what literally transforms your mind, which is also biblical because it says, and as a man thinketh in his heart, the feelings, so is he. How he behaves, his character, what he does. So I think, again, going back to the Bible is a great thing to do when you're thinking about therapy, because I truly believe it started there. And then we just kind of mimic it. I was talking about biomimicry with my son. God created something, and then man took nature, and from that gleaned and then created something else, right? Like planes. We took ideas from birds, and we literally use birds in almost everything we do when we're making an airplane. Okay. So hopefully this was helpful for you. It was a little bit shorter today, but TikTok, I got it right. TikTok, I will see you guys later, and we'll talk a little bit more this week as we transition to thinking about what we're thinking about, particularly if you're on a neurodiverse spectrum. Okay. You guys take care. Have a blessed day on purpose. For those over here on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, I want to just remind you, as you are thinking about neurodiversity, and again, neurodiverse just means that you may not have the neurotypical brain that the average population has, but in some way you think quite differently. So a person on the autism spectrum, a person with ADHD, a person with OCD, these are all folks that your wiring might be a little bit different. So you can change your wiring too. And there are all kinds of ways that you can change your wiring. There are therapies that you can do. There are interventions like TMS is a great intervention to be able to do that. And one of the things that I think is really cool about some of the things that are coming out across our landscape over the course of the next, I'm going to say the next 5 to 10 years, what I think is phenomenal is that we are refining the way we've done things over the last 30 years. So the first 30 years, 20 to 30 years of what I'm seeing, especially in interventional psychiatry, we're looking at things and we're basically answering questions like, can we use this for XYZ? Now we're learning more about how can we use this for? We know we can use it. How can we use it? Case in point, we know that this is TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, is effective for the treatment of autism. But how do we use it? If I just put you on the autism program and just put the magnet on one side of your head, usually the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, somewhere around here, and just kind of set it and forget it, you're going to get benefit. But what particular area are you getting the most benefit, right? Am I trying to get benefit for your behavior? Am I trying to get benefit from a speech perspective? Am I trying to get benefit from behavior that maybe is more aggressive and less able to be controlled? All of those may be different brain targets, right? And so that's the refining. That's the refining. So it makes me think about a refiner's fire. So it doesn't have to be painful, but you do have to want to do it. You do have to want it. Okay. So that's another little tidbit. We will talk more about TMS and autism before the end of this month, but stay tuned for that because we'll have one very special topic just for that. All right. You guys take care. Have a blessed day on purpose.